Hello and welcome to Learning Mastery Gradebook. My name is Kara Vaughn and I'm creating just a couple of tutorials to maybe help you work through some obstacles that may come up. So when you're setting up your Learning Mastery Gradebook via Canvas, the first thing that you want to do is create outcomes. And remember to think of outcomes like standards. These are the topics or the standards that your students are going to be learning. So very first thing is just choose the course that you want to work in, and I'm working in a completely blank course. I'll show you what finished outcomes look like once I'm done here. If you come over here on the left hand side, click outcomes, and I would definitely suggest that you have your standards ready, or if you teach things by units or by modules, what you need to think of is this group button are your units. So in chemistry we teach everything by units. So I'm going to go ahead and hit new group. And I'm going to title this Unit 1, Experimental Design and Measurement. And of course, each of us teaches things different or words things different, so do whatever makes sense to you. And down here at the bottom, this is something that your students are not going to see, but this is for you to kind of organize your thoughts. So within here, I might kind of be more specific about the vocabulary that's involved. I could write out that this includes metric to metric conversions. This includes accuracy. This includes precision, variables, etc. And again, you can add as much or as little as you want to there. So ultimately what I've done here is created a folder. Again, I look at these things by unit, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at everything that I teach in Unit 1, and I'm going to go through and add all of the standards or outcomes. Now this is where you have a lot of choice. The state sometimes numbers the standards for us, so if you wanted to use that numbering system, you could, or you could just name it however you want to. So within Unit 1, the very first thing that I teach is experimental design. So just to keep this connected to the state standards, I'm going to title this 1.1, and it's going to say Lab Tools. Okay, so ultimately what happens when a student is checking their mastery, this is what they're going to see, lab tools. So maybe that's not specific enough for you. Maybe you want to do identify appropriate lab tools. Again, you have complete freedom to do whatever you want. And a lot of times what I do is I come down here to this space, and this is where I copy and paste the exact standard over so that I have the documentation. Down here is where things can get a little bit more interesting, and I have mixed emotions on all of these options. This first option is very black and white. This is you setting mastery. So for example, if a student is given 5 questions over a topic and they answer 3 correct, you're stating that they've met mastery. And so if you want to leave that at 3, you can do that. Let's say that you give them 5 questions and you feel like they need to answer 4 of the 5 correct to meet mastery, then you could change that to a 4. All of these are editable, so you could always insert a almost there category where that would be 4 points, or you can delete things. Again, you've got flexibility there to change that rubric however you want. And the last choice that you have is the calculation method. And we understand that within Canvas, there's also a grade book, and then there's the Learning Mastery grade book. And so there is a way to go through and identify how that numerical value shows up. So for example, the first way that you could choose is a decaying average. And this is really interesting. This is new this past year to Canvas. You set a value in here. It's preset for you at 65%. So let's say that you give a test or a quiz and the student doesn't do well the first time. And then 3 weeks later, you test that skill again. Well, it's a decaying average. So what it does is it takes the most recent result of the most recent quiz and it weights it 65%, but it still looks back at that original quiz where they didn't do well and it weights it as 35%. And then you end up with that final raw score there. So if it's something that you feel like remediation, but you want to hold them accountable for previous quizzes, that's definitely something you might want to think about. The next one is obviously in number of times, and Canvas does a really nice job of giving you a summary here. This is saying that in order for a student to show mastery, they have to make a certain value over a given number of times. And again, there's an example down here. And these last two are very obvious. If you choose this one, then it's going to take mastery based on their most recent score. So this is interesting. You might have a student who did better, excuse me, let me back up. That's not the one I'm thinking of. Highest score. Highest score means that if they take an assessment 3 times, it's going to take the highest score of those 3 assessments. So this is unique in that if a student starts out really well on a skill and masters it, it's going to hold that score even if they don't do well in the second and third try. Okay, and then once we've identified all those different things, we're going to hit save. And now you see I have my learning outcome there. Now, of course, Unit 1 has multiple outcomes, so I'm going to go ahead and hit a new outcome, and I'm going to title this one 1.2, Metric Conversions. And I'm going to go through and do the exact same thing that I just did and hit save. And so again, within this Unit 1 folder, you see I've got these standards starting to add up. This is where you got to be careful. If you want to add a new group or a new unit or a new module, you've got to come back over here and highlight, then hit new group, and that's not accurate. We're going to bring that back over here. There we go. And we're going to name it Unit 2, Matter and Energy. And so then what I would do is go through and add all those new outcomes or standards, it's ultimately what they are, within Unit 2. So I've highlighted Unit 2, I'm going to hit New Outcome, and I would type in elements, compounds, and mixtures. And again, I'm skipping over. You can go through and make this as detailed or not as you want, and then hit save. And so now within Unit 2, I have my standard, and I would go. So this right here is honestly what takes the most time, and you've got to do whatever makes sense to you. My system isn't going to work for you. Your system will work best for you. And I do want to show you, though, what a finished unit would look like, or a finished set of outcomes. So I'm going to go back to a previous course that I've taught. This was last fall, 2015. For an honors chemistry course. And over here, you see there are all of my units. And then if I click on Unit 1, there's a breakdown of all the different standards that I teach. There's my Unit 2, again, breakdown of all the different standards that I teach. You can go down through those. And this has taken a very long time to get it into a point where I can understand, the students can understand it also. So please keep that in mind as well.